Some of you may know this. I hope you'll sing along with me. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love we have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are one. And now I'd like to sing together with you a song that we often do at the beginning of this service. On the next page in your leaflets, sung by a cantor in the Philadelphia area, at least he was, Marshall Portnoy. Very meaningful song. The song personifies Anne Frank and sort of purports to be her thoughts when she was in hiding during the Holocaust. It's called I Still Believe, kind of a mixture of sadness and hope in this song. Shining stars, cloudless skies of blue, through the window crack I see you, and I long to run and touch the sun. Dear diary, what else can I do? Growing up and longing for a friend, hoping that our secret life will end in words of light written in the night, my thoughts and hopes and dreams to you I send. I still believe, in spite of everything, that people really are good at heart, and the skies will be bright, and it will all come right, and the springtime of peace will start. Dreaming of the precious air of freedom, waking and I feel like crying. There's no place to go, but still I know skies are clearing, birds are flying. Happiness and love that I can share in a world of truth and beauty. When the thunder's near and when I fear, the light of morning dawn will come to me. I still believe, in spite of everything, that people really are good at heart, and the skies will be bright, and it will all come right, and the springtime of peace will start. And the skies will be bright, and it will all come right, and the springtime of peace will start.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you, friends from the Interfaith community, as well as members of our own congregation here this evening. And I was thinking about tonight's service and what it represents. And I've been doing this now for 40 years, over 40 years, and almost every year I look at it as a remembrance of a moment, a really very horrible moment in history, and looking back at what happened to the Jewish people along with millions of others. This year, I kind of see it as a warning and something that's not entirely in the past, but something that could potentially be something that might be happening to us in the future, and not just for Jews this time, but for many others. And so tonight it's not a history lesson, it's a warning and something that we really need to think about, take seriously, and when we read the story of the Holocaust, think about how it applies in our country today, and what we need to do in order to make sure that this never happens again. I'd like to invite my confirmation class to come on up and open the doors of the Ark and the Ark curtain in Hayden. Please rise in body or spirit. Please be seated. We're going to continue on page 3 with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. I'd like to invite Shelley Rosenbaum-Littman and Carol Littman to come on up and light the candles for us this evening.
These Shabbat candles remind us of the generations of Israel who kindled light. On this night, we remember those whose lives were extinguished by those who sought to destroy our people and our traditions. As these Shabbat candles give light to all of us who behold them, so may our united presence here this evening be a beacon of light against all those who continue to harbor prejudice and hatred in their hearts. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Praise be our eternal God, ruler of the universe. You hallow us with mitzvot and command us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen, 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 amen.
read together. It is hard to understand why people kill each other. It is even harder to think that 6 million Jews and 5 million people of other faiths were murdered by the Nazis. It is hard to understand how or why this horrible tragedy took place, but we must never forget, for if we forget that it happened, it could happen again. We rise in body or spirit for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship. Praise the one to whom praise is due. Praise be the one to whom praise is due, now and forever.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Va'ed.
Page 4. We read together. O God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of the night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun.
In the 1930s, Hitler and the Nazis began to teach people that the Jews were an inferior race of people. They made Jews leave their homes and live in overcrowded apartments without enough food or money. We remember the 210,000 Jews who were killed in Germany and Austria.
The Nazis began to convince more people that their lives would be better without the Jews. In November 1938, on a night we call Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, they destroyed many of the Jews' stores and burned down their beautiful synagogues. We remember the 90,000 Jews who were killed in France.
Then the Nazis told people that the Jews must be annihilated in order to purify the world. They began to send the Jews to labor camps, where they told the Jews they would have a better life. Instead, they had to work all day for the Nazis, digging ditches or breaking rocks in the hot sun. All they were given to eat was little bits of bread and watered-down soup. When they got too weak to work, the Nazis killed them. We remember the 450,000 Jews who were killed in Hungary.
For over 5 years, the Nazis made more and more Jews leave their homes and move to concentration camps or ghettos. There, the sick, the old, and the young were separated from their family and killed. We remember the 75,000 Jews who were killed in Slovakia.
Together, when justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives, and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we through righteousness behold your presence. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal One is our God, the eternal God alone. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated. We read together. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on our way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be a symbol before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I, the Lord and your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I, the Lord and your God. Page 6. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
Many Jews did not let the Nazis kill them without struggling to stay alive. Many Jews helped each other find enough food and clothing, though the Nazis wanted them to starve. There were many Christians who risked their own lives by hiding the Jews in their homes and helping them to escape.
We remember the 40,000 Jews who were killed in Belgium. You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
Some young Jews began to steal guns and ammunition. They fought against the Nazis and helped many people escape to countries where they could live in safety.
We remember the 600,000 Jews who were killed in Romania. Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
Soon there were so many Jews fighting the Nazis in certain communities that it took a long time, sometimes even years, for the Nazis to defeat them.
We remember the 3 million Jews who were killed in Poland. Among them were the Jews who fought to defend the Warsaw Ghetto. You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds. Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of our children.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Malchutecha קיים לפני משה ומרים, ואלי ענו ויאמרו, ואלי ענו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Who is like you, Eternal One, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, doing wonders? In their escape from the sea, your children saw your sovereign might displayed. This is my God, they cried. The Eternal will reign forever and ever. And it has been said, the Eternal One delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. We praise you, God, Redeemer of Israel. We rise in body or spirit for the tefillah, that part of the service when we speak directly to God.
Anananananana Adonai, Anananananana Sfatai Tifta, Ananananana Ufi Yagid, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, Anananananana Adonai, Ananananana Sfatai Tifta, Ananananana Ufi Yagid, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha, Ananananana Adonai, Ananananana Sfatai Tifta, Ananananana Ufi Yagid, Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Please join me in the Avot. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, v'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imachot, u'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Together at the bottom. Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use our strength for good. You are the source of life and blessing. Help us to lift up the fallen. You are the author of freedom. Help us to free the captive. You are our hope in death as in life. Help us to keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. Your might, O God, is everlasting. Help us to use our strength for good and not for evil. Together, you are holy, your name is holy, and those who strive to be holy declare your glory day by day. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. Please be seated.
The most powerful weapons the Jews possessed against the Nazis were their religion and their traditions. By secretly praying, observing Jewish holidays, and learning about their Judaism, the Jews maintained their faith and hope even though they lived under terrible conditions. We remember the 60,000 Jews who were killed in Greece.
The following poem was written by Eva Pikova. a 12-year-old girl who was forced to live in a ghetto. It gives us some insight into how desperately the Jews hoped that things would get better.
Today the ghetto knows a different fear. Close in its grip, death holds an icy knife. An evil sickness spreads a tear in its wake. The victims of its shadow weep and writhe.
Today a father's heartbeat tells his fright, and mothers bend their heads into their hands. Now children choke and die with typhus here. A bitter tax is taken from their hands. We remember the 228,000 Jews who died in the Baltic countries.
My heart still beats inside my chest while friends depart from other worlds. Perhaps it's better, who can say, than watching this to die today.
Oh no, my God, we want to live, not watch our numbers melt away. We want to have a better world. We want to work. We must not die. We remember the 900,000 Jews who died in Ukraine.
Many Jews who lived under the threat of the Holocaust formed groups and went to live in Palestine before the Nazis got to them. There they built cities and towns and set the stage for the founding of the State of Israel, a safe haven for the Jewish people. We remember the 105,000 Jews who were killed in the Netherlands.
Thousands of Jews tried to flee to the United States, but there were strict quotas here, and many were turned away. An ocean liner called the St. Louis brought hundreds of refugees to our shores, but our government forced the boat to return to Europe, where most of the passengers were killed by the Nazis. We remember the 352,000 Jews who were killed in Russia.
By the end of the war, 6 million Jews had been murdered, along with 5 million people of other faiths. But millions of Jews also survived. When the Americans came to liberate them, they found many who were so malnourished that they were hovering between life and death. Most of them could not return to their homes because they had been destroyed. Many were separated from their families and had no way of knowing which relatives were still alive.
We bear witness to the 11 million. Their memories live on in us.
The Holocaust reminds us that freedom is precious. It reminds us that there are many peoples around the world today who are oppressed because of their race, religion, ethnic background, sexual orientation, and their place in society. They need our help.
Who among us can be certain that if we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, that we would not cooperate with the forces of evil? Are we in some way doing exactly that by our subtle racism, our lack of interest in war-torn nations around the world, our deliberate ignorance of genocide through starvation that some people are experiencing this very minute as we sit here? Dr. Harry Curtis.
First they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the communists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Pastor Martin Nemo.
Please join me in the singing of Shalom Rav, Song for Peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tazim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tazim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tazim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tazim leolam. V'tov be'enecha Vivarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה לשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tazim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha Tazim leolam, Tazim leolam, Tazim leolam.
God of peace, of justice, and of love, be praised. Inspire us to banish forever hatred, war, and bloodshed. Help us to establish forever one human family, united in peace. God of peace, bless us with peace. We must never forget the horrible things that happened in the Holocaust, because if we forget and allow the world to forget, it could happen again. We pause for a moment of silent prayer. Now we continue with another song for peace, O say Shalom, and on page 11.
O say Shalom, Bimroma, Uya, say Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. O say Shalom, Bimroma, Uya, say Shalom Aleinu, V'yakol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. O say Shalom, Bimroma, Huya, say Shalom Aleinu, V'yakol Israel, V'imru, Amen. O say Shalom, Bimromav, Uya, say Shalom, Aleinu, V'yakol Israel, V'imru, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. So I think a month or two ago, Linda Wertheimer sent me an email saying that I think you'd really like to meet Julie Brill, who's also a fellow Bedford resident, and she's writing this book, and I thought you might like to meet each other, and so we had a nice conversation. Little did I know that her book was going to become this huge deal, and that she was and it's hit all the major Jewish publications, and she's been on TV a number of times, and I think she's going to have her moment of fame here with this book.
3 minutes.
Your 3 minutes of fame. I think it's going to be a lot more than that, and it's so wonderful that this is the kind of book that's becoming viral and hitting all the airwaves, because it's just an amazing story, and it's the kind of book that all of us should read, and we have copies of it after the service. Julie's here tonight with her parents, Chaim and Martha. They're all longtime Bedford residents. So Julie's been collecting family stories since she was a little girl. As a child, she held two conflicting beliefs. She saw Germans had murdered her Jewish grandfather in occupied Yugoslavia, yet she somehow believed the Holocaust had never come to his hometown of Belgrade. The family anecdotes her father passed down, a blend of his early memories and what his mother told him, didn't match what Julie had heard about Germany, Poland, and Anne Frank in Holland during World War II. With so few Jewish survivors and descendants from Serbia, the story of the Shoah there has gone untold. Julie's quest to understand and share what she learned led to Hidden in Plain Sight, a family memoir and the untold story of the Holocaust in Serbia. And I understand that 90% of the Jews in Yugoslavia were killed during the Holocaust. And I also understand that when you were at the Holocaust Museum in Washington, that you were looking through the books, and they were in alphabetical order, and when you came to Y, there were no books about what happened to the Jews in Yugoslavia, and that was an inspiration for you to write this book, this untold story. So she's here to tell us her family's experiences in the Shoah, and it's a pleasure for me to introduce her. And I don't know, Chaim, are you going to be coming up also?
Thank you.
He'll sit it out and watch from the bleachers. Yeah. But her father, Chaim, is a survivor. He's here.
Put the candle for you guys afterwards. Is the plan.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to just thank you all for welcoming my parents and I into your congregation tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my grandfather. His name was Alexander Brill, as we honor both those who were murdered in the Holocaust and those who survived, including my 86-year-old father who was here with us tonight. My grandfather Alexander was born in Belgrade, Serbia in 1909. He married my grandmother Regina, and in 1938 they had their first child, my father. My grandfather considered himself to be a Serb first and then a Jew, but he and my grandmother understood that his self-identity would not protect him if the Germans occupied Belgrade. So in early 1941 they gathered money for false papers that would allow him to run and have a better chance of surviving. They paid the money, but the papers never arrived. So in April 1941, when the war began in Yugoslavia, my grandfather was still living in Belgrade's Jewish quarter, Dorchel, with my grandmother, his two younger brothers, and my father, who was 2.5 years old. My grandfather's father lived nearby. Hitler, angry that the Yugoslavian people had replaced their king in order to break a pact with Germany, attacked Belgrade in a surprise bombing that targeted civilians, particularly the residents of the Jewish quarter. My grandfather's father died in that bombing raid. That's really the beginning of the Holocaust in Yugoslavia. There was a turncoat, so they knew where the civilian bomb shelters were, and they bombed them. And my grandfather actually lived in my father's grandfather, my great-grandfather, lived in the building where the bomb shelter was, and he was killed with that bomb. The family story is that he was going out to help my grandmother and my father instead of going into the shelter where he would have been safe, and the stairs collapsed onto him. My father's earliest memory are from the day of the German bombing. He remembers running with his mother and cousin to a nearby bomb shelter as the bombs made a whistling sound overhead. As they were leaving home, his mother placed a plate of cookies on top of a wardrobe. My father remembers marveling on their return that the plate had split neatly in two instead of shattering. He wasn't yet 3 years old. My father doesn't remember the death and destruction in the streets of his neighborhood, and he doesn't remember his own father. Forgetting can be protective. The Germans forced all the Jewish men ages 16 to 60 to register under threat of death. At registration, my grandfather received the yellow star he was required to wear and a work assignment. He was going to repair the sewer system the bombing had destroyed. It was slave labor. Every morning he reported to dig ditches and lay pipe alongside his Jewish neighbors. But at night he was able to return home to my grandfather and my father. His younger brothers had escaped and joined the partisans. This went on through the spring and summer of 1941 until the night that my grandfather did not return. It was probably in late August, around my father's 3rd birthday. My father remembers my grandmother screaming and wailing. She was pregnant with my aunt. She didn't know what had happened, but of course she assumed the worst. Now my grandfather and the other Jewish slaves were imprisoned at a camp in Belgrade, in the center of the capital city. Beyond the fence, they could see other Serbs go about their daily business. The prisoners were taken out each day on work details and returned to sleep on the floor. There was nothing in that camp. There was no bedding. There's a letter that survived from the leader of the Jewish community, and he's begging for straw. Please could the men sleep on straw? They were dependent on their mothers, sisters, daughters, and wives to bring them food. My grandmother did this through the late summer and fall of 1941. And then one day she arrived. The gates were open, the camp was empty, and my grandfather had just disappeared. Something to know about my parents is that their story is a love story. They met at a dance hall and they fell in love. The day my grandfather disappeared, my grandmother was 27 and she was pregnant. My grandfather was the love of her life. She never remarried. When my grandfather disappeared, my grandmother wanted to believe the rumors that the Jewish prisoners had been moved elsewhere for work. It made sense that able-bodied young men were moved elsewhere to slave for the Reich. The truth is, in Serbia, the Germans murdered 100 civilians for every one of their soldiers killed by partisans. My grandfather, like most adult male Serbian Jews, was murdered as part of this policy. So we have documents. My grandmother never knew what happened, but we do. She never knew that he was shot and killed and buried in a mass grave the very day he disappeared. Like the majority of Jews from Eastern Europe, my grandfather was murdered outside of a death camp close to where he lived. So like most victims of the Holocaust, my grandfather doesn't have a marked grave, but he recently received a permanent marker called a Stolperstein outside his home. That's German for stumbling stone. In July 2022, after years of effort, my father, my daughter, and I watched as my grandfather and 9 other Holocaust victims received the first Stolpersteine in Belgrade, Serbia's capital city. One of the things I love about the Stolpersteine project is by marking the last voluntary residence of Holocaust victims and survivors, we celebrate their lives. It's the largest decentralized monument in the world. Over 100,000 stones have been installed already. The intent is not just to draw attention to victims and their last voluntary residence, but to symbolically reunite families by bringing both victims and survivors together. Getting the first Stolperstein placed in what was once a vibrant Jewish neighborhood in Belgrade was a small victory against fascism. These stones represent a community where 90% of Jewish residents were murdered. But at the same time we were celebrating in my father's hometown, masked white supremacists were marching here in Boston down the Freedom Trail. They attacked a black man. Racism, anti-Semitism, violence, and hate were on display right here in Boston. We can never become complacent. The Holocaust is neither long ago nor far away. My grandfather and each of the 6 million murdered Jews were more than the way that they died. My grandfather was a father, a husband, a brother, a son, and a friend. My grandfather worked for his father as a clerk for the electric company. He was responsible for his 2 younger brothers who lived with him, both of whom became partisans, and one of whom was killed in battle. I wanted to mention that because Yom HaShoah marks the anniversary of the Jewish Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, commemorating Jewish resistance as well as Jewish death. My grandfather was only 32 when he was murdered. Most of his life should have still been before him. He should have got to see his children, my father and my aunt, who was born after he was murdered, grow up. He would have been 60 when I was born. He should have got to see my brother and me grow up, and perhaps even witness the births of his great-grandchildren. The Nazi goal was not just to wipe out the Jews of Europe. They also wanted to wipe away any evidence of the existence of those 9 million Jews. But my father and I, here today, are proof that my grandfather existed. I'd be happy to answer any questions that people have. If you'd like to learn more about my family story, the story of the Jews of Serbia, we also have copies of the book, which is the more complete story. And thank you for listening.
Anybody have any questions? Zach?
You mentioned the partisans.
Yes.
What were they?
Oh, thank you for that question. So there was a lot of resistance in Yugoslavia to the German occupations. There was collaboration, but there was also resistance. So the partisans were the communist soldiers who were fighting the Germans, and they actually were quite successful. A little bit of trivia, Belgrade was the only city that was liberated by itself. The Serbs liberated Belgrade, and it was the partisans, of course, doing that. So the Red Army came to the gates of the city, and the partisans actually liberated Belgrade.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
So were the partisans all Jewish, or there were Jewish and...
There were Jewish partisans. I mean, mostly not, because Yugoslavia mostly not Jewish, but there definitely were Jewish partisans. Yeah.
Did in Serbia, did the Nazis only imprison the men?
Thank you. I didn't tell the whole story. The whole story is horrible. So of all of the Jews who were imprisoned, 90% of the population, there was only one survivor. So after all of the Jewish men, 16 to 60, the men who could work were murdered. The next step was everyone else, women, children, elderly, infirm, were imprisoned in a different camp, but also in the city. Through the winter of 41-42, which historians know as a bad winter, a very cold winter. And the ones that were still alive in the spring were gassed. This is before there were gas chambers, but they brought from Berlin mobile gas vans, and they drove through the city, and they were murdered in that way. The one survivor was a baby who was somehow smuggled out. My father and I met her when we went to the Stolpersteine installation. Her name is Esther, and she believes that her parents and my grandparents were friends. They lived across the street from each other. They were around the same age. She thinks they must have known each other. She's the one survivor.
Ben.
Question here.
Yeah.
Were any of the larger concentration camps near Serbia?
So the gas chambers really aren't up and running when the Holocaust is happening in Serbia. My grandfather was murdered in November of 1941, which is before the final solution even sort of was on the table. I mean, the Nazis originally were just trying to move the Jews. They weren't necessarily trying to kill them all. So in the northern part of Serbia that was governed by Hungary during the war, those Jews did go by train to Auschwitz. But the majority of Jews in Serbia died the way the majority of Jews in Eastern Europe died, which was very close to their home and not by gas.
Cliff.
So your father and your grandmother were not in prison, had escaped, or never were in prison?
Yeah, that's a long story and maybe a story for the book, but yes, they were not in prison. They were, the name of the book is Hidden in Plain Sight. They were hiding and not hiding. Yeah.
How many other people were hiding but not hiding?
So it's 10% of the Jews survived. We think from Belgrade, it was just my father and my aunt. We have lists of who was receiving aid after the war, food, and they're the only children on the list.
It's incredible. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Julie. This is amazing.
Thank you, everyone.
Such a
It's hard
moving
to listen
story.
to, so thank you.
When I was talking to Julie and Julie watched a previous year's service, she noticed that there wasn't a sign for Yugoslavia, so we created a sign for Yugoslavia, and I thought that it would be appropriate for her to put the yahrzeit candle in front of it. And now we have an additional special performance by Superintendent Cliff Schwang, and he chose to play for us this evening, Bring Him Home, which is in, actually the words and a little description are in the middle of your pamphlets. Do you want to say anything else?
It's just, this song became popular again after October 7th last year, and it reflects the desire of many in these situations to bring people home.
brings us full circle here, from remembering those who died during the Holocaust to a story of how it personally affects a family to this very minute, to thinking about the hostages who have been killed in Gaza, and all of the horrible things happening at this moment around the world. So now we're going to continue our service with the Elenu on page 11. I'd like to invite my confirmation class and Hayden back up to opening our curtain. Please rise and body your spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, v'tet gedula liotzer v'reshit, shelo asanu kigoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo zamanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kichal hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim, ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated.
Please join me in the singing of Shehu Notesh Shamayim on the next page. Shehu Notesh Shamayim v'yoser haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al u'shchinatu zo b'gavhei meromim hu Eloheinu ein od Emeth Malkeinu Efesulato Kakahato Betorahato Viadata Hayom Vahashivota Elvavecha Ki Adonai Hu HaElohim Bashamayim Mima'al V'aretz Mi tachat ein od. Continuing. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad Ushemo echad.
We have lived in numerous towns and villages, and in too many of them we have endured cruel suffering. Some we have forgotten, others are sealed in our memory, a wound that does not heal. 100 generations of victims and martyrs, still their blood cries out from the earth. And so many at Dachau, at Buchenwald, at Babi Yar, and what can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable or accept what life has brought to our people, to many peoples? All who are born must die, but how can we compare the slow passage of our time with a callous slaughter of the innocent, cut off before their time? They have left their stories and their lives to us. Let a million prayers rise whenever we worship. Let a million candles glow against the darkness of these unfinished lives. Sanctifying the name of God, we do honor to their memory. We now think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We recall Carol Bell and Aviva Abbashouse, who died during this past month, and we add to their names the names of those whose yahrzeits or anniversary whose deaths occur this week. Edwin Dauber, Barbara Goldberg, Leon Weidman, Herb Gindlin, Philip Stone, Louis Halpern, Batya Klein, Lillian Goober, Irving Harrow, Daniel Rosenbaum. And we also recall, of course, the 6 million. We also recall the 2,200 who died on October 7th. All of those who died fighting to defend the state of Israel, and all those innocent victims who have died during this horrible conflict in the Middle East and in Ukraine. And at this time, if there are names of others you'd like us to keep in our hearts and our minds and prepare to recite the Kaddish prayer for those who have died, you may say their names aloud or in your hearts as I look across the room.
Al Barshevsky,
Zichronam Livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing. We turn to page 13 and rise to recite the Kaddish prayer in body or spirit. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach v'rutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei v'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalah v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach V'Olam Olmei Olmaya, Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitpa'ar V'Yitramam V'Yitnaseh, V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shmei D'Kudashah B'Rithu, Le'ela Mim Kol Birchata V'Shirata, Tushbachata V'Nechamata, Ta'amiran V'Alma V'Imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shmaya, V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, let peace descend on us, on all Israel and all the world, as we say together, amen. Please be seated. I'd like to call in Shelley Rosenbaum Littman, our past president, and Carl, our financial secretary, for the announcements.
Shabbat Shalom again, everybody. A few things coming up. Next Friday is Yom HaAtzmaut, is Israel Independence Day. The service will be co-sponsored not only between us, Temple Shalom Emeth, but also with Hadassah. They join us every year, have a joint service to celebrate. And this service has honored recipients of awards given to the memory of Temple Shalom Emeth's first president and Hadassah associate Michael Burlow. And the special service celebrates the many accomplishments of Hadassah both in the U.S. and Israel, and honors the 77th anniversary of the creation of the State of Israel. Kim Major, who is the current president of Hadassah Northern New England and former president of Temple Shalom Emeth, will bring us important and exciting news of Hadassah's work both in the U.S. and Israel. And this year's service will be in person or available via a link that's sent to Hadassah members, and we invite you to join us virtually or in person as we celebrate Hadassah and Israel. The week after that, we have our annual Bernard Nelson Award service honoring Bob Eisenstein. It was first given in June 1974 in memory of Bernard Nelson. It's given to a member of Temple Shalom Emeth in good standing, who's a person who's exhibited qualities as diligent commitment, continuous support, and willing dedication and unsolicited tzedakah. Also, this member must have aided in the promotion of fellowship in our Jewish community and exhibited a true sense of belonging to our temple family. Bob has been the Vice President of House for many years, has done absolutely an amazing job of renovating and maintaining our facilities. And he's always there when we ask him to do anything, and he's an active participant in the board and in temple activities. And the week after that, actually it's before, not next Friday, the following Friday, but it's the following Thursday, on May 15th, join the Religious Action Center of Massachusetts for a campaign town hall, and invite you to participate in a virtual campaign town hall on Thursday, May 15th, where you'll have the opportunity to learn about potential campaign options that help shape the direction of the Religious Action Center Massachusetts advocacy for the next 2 years. Your voice matters as we work together to address the most urgent issues affecting Massachusetts. And there's also in the email that gets sent out, the World Zionist Conference elections. I voted already, and hopefully, you voted. So it's not free. It costs $5 for you to register, but it allows us to make sure that the Reform community is heard in the Jewish community overall. And with that, Shabbat Shalom.
And thank you for sponsoring the Oneg Shabbat, our desserts after the service, Shelley, in memory of your father. And I just wanted to thank Julie tremendously for such a moving talk and telling us your family story. And to have your father here is so meaningful for us. And I know that we'll have a chance to meet you both after the service and learn more about the story by buying your book. And I wanted to thank Bedford Superintendent Cliff Schwang for doing an amazing, moving job of presenting Bring Him Home. And every time I hear that, it's so relevant and meaningful and powerful. And I wanted to thank my fellow clergy, Reverend Trina Portillo, back there from the Presbyterian Church, and Father Chris Casey, and Bill Ricca, and Reverend Jamie Hinson-Rieger, our friend in Bedford at the UU Church, and Judge Philip Weiner, who snuck in here for the service. He spoke a couple of years ago after the war in Ukraine started and gave us tremendous insight. And we're going to definitely have to have him back. And I also wanted to recognize our other two Holocaust survivors here, Shalva and Chaim Clement. And Chaim told his story, was it last year? A very moving story about his life. And Shalva, we created an episode about her life on my YouTube channel, which is up to 1,100 views. So if you have a chance to watch that extremely moving and incredible story of her survival. She was born in the woods outside of Warsaw when her parents fled the Nazis. Anyway, thank you all for coming, and thank you to Veris for videotaping this on behalf of BCAT, so it'll be on BCAT, Burlington Cable Access. And with that, we're going to continue with the Kiddush on page 14, the blessing over the wine and the motzi. So, Shelley, you want to come back up? Kara, you want to come back up with her to lead us on the Kiddush? Please rise in body or spirit.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafin. Amen.
And now, is Miss Layla around? Okay. Should we leave her there? All right, we're going to continue with the motzi when Layla comes out. the blessing over the bread. You'll see in a moment why Layla was in the social hall. Dramatic pause.
It's a pass.
It's a pass? Uh-oh.
Representing
All right, Luke and Jacob, come on up. I'm putting you on the spot all night. Hayden, you can come too if you, I'm sure you really want to. We always have the kids do the motzi, and sometimes kid is a relative term.
Motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Motzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Please be seated.
And please join us in our closing song, a song that we like to do at the end of this service every year, a very meaningful song, another song about peace. Let there be peace on earth. It's in your booklets and also on the last page of your leaflets.
You gonna join us for this? Come on up.
Oh, nice.
I want you to be on video.
You want to play through a verse before we sing? Sing together. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be with God our Creator. Peacemakers we will be. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.